Hey all, Types here, back plaza more Planet Zoo, back in Zimba Zoo. So this is episode 4 of Zimba Zoo. It has been a little while, so I have been a little bit of a break from Planet Zoo for a little while. Really just had a few things kind of going on in real life, and just didn't really massively have my creative juices flowing, to be honest. Although I have to say, what you're seeing in this episode is a culmination of a whole bunch of different play sessions, all kind of edited together, and there's kind of a couple of other little bits and pieces. I've got most of another episode ready to go. Zimba is something that was, I originally started it. So there's been 3 episodes previously. The last episode was the flamingo habitat. And as is kind of always the way when you start a new series, it's always a little bit of a slow going. Always takes you guys a little bit of time to kind of start to fall in love with it, which is always fine. Tigwadu is definitely going to be continuing. I'm still really loving playing that. It's just a little bit of a break from it at the moment. I've started this project really as just to kind of have like a second thing going. I found a while ago that one of the things that helped keep me going in Planet Zoo was when you kind of lose a little bit of creative inspiration with one project, to have somewhere else to go. So this tended to be one that I was streaming quite a lot. If you haven't seen any of these previously, that is cool. So this is it's supposed to be like a modern African zoo. So I didn't want it to be like highly themed. I didn't want it to be kind of kitschy, kind of African, like almost like an African stereotype. I wanted it to be quite a modern looking zoo. It's supposed to be set in, I think I said Zambia, which is a reasonably kind of affluent southern African country. I think it's just north of South Africa, if I remember rightly. It's a modern zoo, and we had built this big curved shape entrance building, I think in the second episode maybe, or actually maybe even the first episode. And I had this central plaza, which you see me working on now, and I had just kind of left it as a big empty space, wasn't sure exactly what I was doing with it. I kind of always had an idea that it was going to be kind of restaurants and the kind of general amenities that you'd expect to see in an entrance plaza. But in this one we kind of fill that all out. So this was something that's been going on for a while. And actually I think I had streamed, I streamed a bunch of episodes where I kind of had this hidden, and I'd done a load of work in here. So there were quite a few iterations of this, quite a few iterations where I'd changed things. You see me, I've done this little deck at the moment. This actually was kind of cool really, because I started this off, what you've seen me put that big wooden deck there, and I'm doing some foliage for that. I'd started this deck before Planet Zoo had added the restaurant feature, which is what you see me doing now. So it was a really kind of handy coincidence, because I'd created this deck and I didn't really know, there was no way of me getting guests up there. So it was, you can see in the background there, it's all sort of tables that I've created. And then the restaurant feature came along, and I was like, oh my god, this is so perfect. It works absolutely perfectly for Zimba. So that was kind of the flash of inspiration for me to come back and start working on this one. What you see me doing here is a little kind of trick with I love this new restaurant, and I love the new these little serving desks, or these little desks. I'm sort of combining this all into one thing, making it a little bit of a kind of fake experience where you can queue up and wait at that serving desk, and you can see into the restaurant kitchen. So what I'm doing is kind of faking all of the rest of the internal space of the kitchen. This is obviously the window that you get into the back of the kitchen. And so the actual kind of guest entrance bit of this kitchen is hidden, and I'm not really using. You'll see this when I do the walking tour. I'll explain kind of how I've done this. But so trying to make this feel like it's a proper fleshed out kitchen. This thing I'm using at the moment there, you just we put that down as little cold storage, like a little freezer box thing that's I grabbed off the workshop. So, and I'm now working Yeah, so the challenge was how to make this feel like it was all one integrated space. So the side that sort of guest side of it is supposed to be obviously like the serving area, and then at the back here you've got the prep area and this food and this actual kind of kitchen part. So the guy you see standing on the right there is just stood on a piece of path. But I'm now trying to blend this all together and make it feel like it's all one big space. And I think actually by the end it works pretty well. Spent a little bit of time on this. And again, this went through several iterations. But this is me now creating the kind of little serving area. So, obviously when in a restaurant kitchen, we've all seen Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares and all those sorts of things. But, the guy in the kitchen creates the food. He puts it up on this little hot bit. And then the servers take it and serve it to the guests who are on the other side. So the theory is that you would be potentially just walking up to that walk-up window and getting your own food, but also potentially would be imagining there'd be servers and stuff. It was one of those things that actually would have been really cool. I feel like they missed a little bit of a trick with the introduction of these restaurant sets, that there isn't like guests, there isn't sort of guest seating areas that are served by table service, which I feel like would have been really cool to have just seen. Wouldn't it have been awesome to have had like a like informal and formal dining experience? So you've got potentially you've got tables where people come and sit, but then you've also got guests being served by waiters coming out, and it feels like it could have been done fairly easily, but I guess maybe doesn't massively fit to zoo. So yeah, just starting to blend these things together. You see I've created this little service hatch now. They're supposed to be like a heated area, some little plates and stuff down. And then I started to like, okay, what else do I need here? Well, and this is always the thing I find when you're trying to do detailing. You're just like, and this is the joy of the creative process for me sometimes. It's just like coming across those little ideas. I'm like, okay, so they need a little ticket system. So tickets get printed out here, and then they get put over the other side, and the prep people know what they're making. So this is just like a little ticket printer for the orders and stuff. There's no actually. I mean, I guess I probably should have made like a little ordering system. Although actually I think there is an ordering system on the desk, isn't there? There's a little computer you can sort of see at the back there. So yeah, little bits and pieces going in. This is something I made. What did I make? This little, you saw that little kind of service trolley. I made that for the community zoo project a while ago. So I'm just kind of ripping a few little bits and pieces off. Those are supposed to be like serviettes and things. Putting a bit of lighting in. There's a whole bunch of things in this episode. So there's like lots of these little bitty details in this area. So you'll see me kind of jumping through these various different sections. We've got the shop. We've got like a mobility section. We've obviously got this restaurant area. And I mean, this is my favourite thing about Planet Zoo. Again, no animals in this episode, unfortunately, but there is going to be animals coming up in the next episode of Zimba. And as I said, I've kind of been working. I've got enough footage for this is supposed to be salt and pepper, by the way. Enough episode footage for most of the next episode, and I've kind of already started working on that next one. So yeah, you can sort of see there. You've got the order from window, and then you've got the collect from window next to each other, and they work really well because now I've kind of blended all that space together. It doesn't feel like two separate things. And obviously both kind of function. You'll see guests come and queue up at that window, but you'll also see guests appear at the table. So works pretty well. So putting a little bit of decoration on the tables. Again, as I said, like when I started building these projects, there weren't these tables. So actually a few times in this footage, I'm spotting little bits that are kind of legacy things that I then went and took away. This was a bit of a weird one. It looks a bit weird, but kind of ends up being that it makes sense. So obviously, as I said, this is supposed to be in Zambia. Zambia is, is going to be really super hot. So like direct sunshine sitting area. There's a little bit of shade here, but I decided to play around with these. These are from the new European set. So this is European flag pieces, I think they are. and they work perfectly well with kind of creating this like covered space. So I rigged all this up, and then I was playing around with how it would kind of look like it was suspended. So you've got some kind of structural support to this. Obviously, it's pretty lightweight, and it's not supposed to be that it's a complete shelter. Obviously, when you're dealing with this sort of temperature, you're not having to worry so much about rain. I guess you're really more worried about just kind of breaking up the sun and stuff. So it's dappled sunshine coming through there, which is kind of nice. And actually, I think Planet Zoo's lighting system works so well in these sorts of things, where you can create these little like kind of if you have that completely shaded, it doesn't look quite as good as if you have it kind of broken up little bits of shadow. The shadow in the game is so good. So fiddling around with this again, spent quite a lot of time making sure this sort of felt like it was realistic. Adding a bit more table to the detail to the tables here. I love the fact that they put this in. I mean, I think this feature by itself has all sorts of possibilities. Mostly the fact, not necessarily the restaurant thing, but the whole behaviour of sort of going into. So if you think about how the restaurants work, obviously the guests go into something and then they spawn somewhere else. So in its most simplistic terms, you can think, well, that would work for lifts, that would work for rides, that would work for all sorts of things, and lots of possibilities for that, rather than guests having to be sort of statically moving around the park. They've got kind of options for where they go. So then the second area we're working on is a little like adoption desk. So I was really just kind of thinking what could be in this space. I didn't just want to do restaurants and food and that sort of thing. I kind of wanted it a bit of a mix. So put this in. And this is again something I reused some of this from that desk I put in the community zoo that we've been working on for a while. So I actually ended up recolouring it. So just kind of, and this is all implied, so this doesn't get used by the guests. I wanted some details and things. So these are supposed to be like, some stats and some information that you can get here. Picked up a couple of, created these a while ago. Again, I think I created these for these little charts for the community zoo. They're in a like slideshow presentation going on in the conference centre. So I just feel like all these sometimes little rich details, and I'm sometimes slightly torn between using. Obviously, we've got so many more screens and graphic options and stuff now that we can do, but I find that I don't know. I sometimes still find that I prefer to create my own. I feel like sometimes they just fit better. They just look a bit more interesting if you've created your own rather than just whacking a graphic in there, putting a screen in there and all that sort of thing. I think one of the challenges is obviously finding the right kind of graphic, and it's or creating your own. I guess you could, I guess that's something you could do if you've got some Photoshop or some design skills. I'm sure you can create your own. So again, putting a bit of covering in for these dudes. So this is supposed to be, again, sort of slightly to separate it off, but also to provide some shade. So it was kind of weirdly like one of the challenges with this sort of space is I didn't want to disrupt the lines too much of the building, because one of the things that we kind of stumbled across as a happy accident is that from top down, the top down view of this building looks a bit like an elephant's head. It's sort of abstract looking elephant's head. So the grey part here is almost like the tusks. You can see that grey roof section. I'll see if I remember to show you that in the real-time tour. As ever with these episodes, there is always the tour section. The tour is always going to have more details. There's usually quite a lot of content that I'm not included in the speed build. If you haven't seen my stuff before, pretty much this is the format of most of my episodes. It's speed build and then a real-time tour. And what I always refer to the speed build as being kind of the broad strokes. You're not seeing me do everything. If there's something in particular you see me doing that you're not sure how I've done it, then feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below. So this is like, then this is another stage. So there's many stages in this. I forgot. So as I said, I guess this is a product of me working on this quietly in little pinched moments over the last 2 months. So I haven't had loads of times when I've kind of sat down and worked for kind of 2 or 3 days straight, which is what I would have done previously. But we're adding some staff sections in now. So yeah, this was fun. So one of the things about this building is it's very, very difficult to go and work on this outer lining. So this whole thing, if you remember this from previous episodes, or if you hadn't seen it in previous episodes, the whole thing is curved. So that whole wall, you can see it curves around there. And obviously part of the challenge of that is that if you're trying to add something into it, or you're trying to take something away, like I was trying to add some windows in there, you can't just plop square things on top of it. So I can't just plop down a window on top of that. I have to adjust the curve. And if you've ever made a curve in Planet Zoo, obviously you know that the curve is relative to, that curve works because you've had something on 2 opposite sides of something, and you've pivoted it round a central point. So in order to add a window in, you're having to kind of adjust every one of those existing pieces. If I was just to try and create a window and then plop it down on top, it really wouldn't work. I'm having to kind of retrace over and adjust. So there's a lot of finicky details here, and it looks a bit messy there, but I'll go and fix that later. So yeah, adding some light into this section. This is all, again, an implied staff area, so they don't go up here. It's supposed to be like, meeting rooms and admin offices and things. Pretty light touch, I guess, but we're inside the actual curvature of the building. The intention was always to have some things that kind of stuck into this building for there basically to be a purpose to this great big building. Architecturally quite complicated building. It's obviously supposed to be, that it's going to be that it's full impact, but also has function. So by the end of this episode, we've got quite a bit going on inside the actual building. Picked up these desks from the workshop. I've used these before. I go in and fiddle with them a little bit. Links to anything that I've created blueprints wise. So like this little cooler and this little pinboard and stuff is stuff that I've made. And then the desks and things. All of these will be linked in the description in the collection. So that's how I tend to do it. I won't link individual blueprints, but they'll all be lumped together in this collection. That blueprint actually, I mean, this is one of those pointless details, but I became obsessed over this. But that blueprint that I used had a keyboard in it that's just kind of a block. And I decided to create my own. Worked on my own there. And there was actually 2 there, but I think I used one of them. And then I was like, oh, a laptop would be cool as well. So use these new little, what are these called again? Plaque screens. They're memorial plaque screens. I think that works pretty well as a laptop. Super simple, but yeah, like 3 of those together. Now we're working on another section. So we're on the mobility section now. So you see this quite a lot, this kind of zoo mobility things like push chairs and stuff. And I had in the background, you can see some push chairs that have been on the workshop for ages, and I've used them before. Decided this time I think we've got new pieces enough to be able to create my own. They're a little bit, they kind of worked for what we had before, but now we've got so many smaller pieces. I think these work pretty well. So yeah, built my own out. Again, using that flag piece or bunting flag just to create this sort of soft. These are supposed to be like, as I said, like push chairs. I did spend a little bit of time. Trying to get the faces. So Just Goron has created a bunch of really cool animal education boards, and some of those have got. I think I used them in this shop. Some of them have got amazing little faces. I was trying to get them onto the push chairs, but it was a struggle. Part of the problem is that those bunting pieces actually animate, so they like blow in the wind. So it's a struggle to get anything too complicated build wise onto many piece count thing onto something like that. But the fact that it moves also makes it look a bit crap as well. So we're working on the funnel section. Again, a lot of this gets cut out, but you'll see this in more detail in the real-time tour. But working on the gift shop now. And the gift shop works pretty well. I'll talk through some of the flow issues I had. I'm trying to get the guests to move in the right direction through the zoo. But yeah, I just wanted this to feel like a kind of rich space. Again, not too tacky, not too kind of over-themed. Oh, there's those animals there. The little t-shirts are amazing. So yeah, we're coming up to the end of the speed build, guys. And as I said, this is a little bit longer than normal for speed builds. As I said, hopefully this is all right. Culmination of not having given you anything for a long time. But yeah, I'll be back in about 30 seconds, and we'll do the real-time tour. Right, welcome back, peeps. Right, so we're making our way down the entrance path. So that goes off towards the car park. Yeah, it's just feeling a little bit more developed now. Definitely, it feels a bit more kind of completed and a bit more lush. So you see that on the left here, all of this has been closed off. So I think in the previous episodes, this was all kind of up to that point. So we'll go round, we'll go inside, and then we'll come back and have a just quick look at that. Because that's the exit. So this is obviously supposed to be the way you go to enter the zoo. And then there's a gate, there's like an overflow gate there for when they want to get people back to the car park quickly. So we'll do a left turn here, go in through the entrance, past the ticket windows. So I've had a couple of questions actually. Someone asked me the other day about how these are done. So they're just literally like a path piece sat on the other side of that window. So these are not functioning. I've changed the colours slightly in here. They are implied ticket windows. So we've got one that's shut. We've got a couple of dudes there on either side. That one's supposed to be that she's like talking to the others. And then they've got like a little office back there. If you want to see that in more detail, go back to previous episodes. So if we come through here, so this is now the plaza in itself. And you see a few little weird guest flow things, but I'll explain how this is working. You do also see them doing some stuff like, as I said, going up to the window. So what we've got going on here is what looks like an enormous amount of people currently going to the toilet. Partly the reason why that is the case is because there is an entrance. There's both the entrance into the restaurant hidden behind that toilet. There is a toilet in there. But there's also a park entrance because we have a spawner back at the bus in the car park, but we don't have technically don't have an entrance. So some of these guys are exiting. So at the moment, there's a hell of a lot of people who look like they're going through that window to go, or going through that door to go to the toilet. But as we get further into the zoo and further into building the zoo, I'll have more entrances, so they won't have to go to that one. So there's my staff building or staff offices up there. A couple of two little people having a. What are you looking at? What are you guys looking at from there? They're just appreciating the fact that there's a restaurant here. So yeah, this is the restaurant. This is the covered section of the restaurant. I think it's turned out really well. Created a few of these little image sets, which I'm going to have around the zoo, I think, sprinkled about here and there. So inside there we have, as I said, the little prep section, kitchen section. I sort of toyed with the idea of closing this off because it doesn't massively make sense that there's a window there and then an open bit, but I wanted to be able to see her doing her business. So yeah, I think like that kind of view works really well because it looks like this is where you order, and this guy takes the food from the station here and puts it back on this counter for you to pick up. So that's that one. Let's see if we can go through here without ending up on the roof. So this is all. There's a few little weird things going on here. So there is a toilet. There is also a gate, so this is how they're entering the zoo. And then secretly through a route back there is how they enter that restaurant. There's also, I'm not quite sure these are set up properly, but there's a bunch of vista points here. So a little trick, if you want guests to interact with something, so the vista points have a range. So if you want guests to interact, for example, with stuff like the adoption area, then you can just put a vista point away somewhere. As long as that's on the path within a certain range, the guests will eventually end up coming over and looking at it. We'll see if they'll do it. But so let's go up here. So we can go up here. It's not actually obviously a guest route or a real staff route. So here's a little backstage staff bit. I think that works out really nicely now that we've got the kind of view out of the windows as well. Down onto the flamingos there. And then this would be like prime spot. Prime spot. For sitting and looking over guests arriving, coming and going. So yeah, they're supposed to be having a little chat about something. There's my keyboard. I made a little mouse as well. Mouse is actually alright. And a little kind of desk tidy thing with some paperwork and things, little pen pot. Just supposed to be a bit of clutter basically to make it look a bit more interesting. Let's go back down here. Can we get back down there? Yes. So yeah, then the actual this mobility section, it's all kind of implied, so there's just supposed to be like a little cover there, yeah, that you can get your push chairs or your wheelchairs and whatever. I think they actually work pretty well. And then the adoption desk, I have actually recoloured that in the second episode just so it fits a bit more into the theme. There's supposed to be a little bit that you can sit and kind of wait and gather some information or read some information. And then you go up and talk to these dudes who help you adopt an animal. Then on the far side here we have information. So this is where you're supposed to be, that you like sign up for a tour. No one actually coming over here. I think the guests are interacting with this. Should be, because it's all hooked up to the path properly. So it'll be really cool to see. I mean, I'm hoping that eventually they'll do it. Is that obviously they've done the desk, they've done the boxless shops for food and drink, but they haven't done it for all the rest of the like information centres and stuff. Hopefully eventually they do that, because that would be really handy. Because that one works perfectly. It's just, you know, if you imagine just this, it would work perfectly for kind of so many generic shop fronts or desks. So little seating area again, all of this implied. Most of these bench areas, most of these sitting areas are all implied. So we have, this is then obviously your way through into the zoo, to the zoo proper. And then on the right we have some little ATMs and access into the staff areas, excuse me people. And then the guest centres, the guest centre, the shop, gift shop. So it's supposed to be, and it does sort of work, you can sort of see them doing it. It's supposed to be that they come into the zoo through this way and then they leave through the gift shop. But they're sort of, yeah, as the guests never kind of follow the order that you want them to do they? They just go all over the damn place. These people are coming in through the gift shop. Maybe one day we'll get some sort of, you know, one-way path thing. Would be amazing. So yeah, A lot of this stuff is picked up of the workshop, so all these amazing plushies. I think these are all by Keyboard Keeper. Again, as I said, link to the collection will be down below. So here is where some of that, oh, it's a bit weird, but here's where some of those Vista points are working. So in order to get guests to look at stuff on shelves, you can do tricks with Vista points. So, or you can hide screens and things. It's supposed to be like it's just an artwork on the floor. So yeah, a couple of little bits and pieces in here, nothing too complicated. Again, this is actually from my, yeah, see that's a Vista point, they're interactive because they're pulling out their cameras, which looks a bit weird. Maybe I should have hidden screens in that instead. As the screens has got a slightly different animation, they just kind of stand and look at screens. I might need to do some work with the barriers here as well to stop them from kind of standing literally right on the shelf. So yeah, just a bit of decoration. There is actually there's a staff room back there so that you can. So I've realised they don't actually have any staff facilities. So this is one of the food desks. You see they're getting drinks from that. So what I had to do is you can kind of see her like jumping in and out of the wall there, which is a bit weird. So in order to hide the fact that it's a drinks counter, I've hidden the drinks bit in there and made the desk longer that way. Doesn't quite work that well, but it's all right. It's about as best we could do. And then this is back round to the actual exit. Again, I need to do some work with the... It's a little bit trippy there, but... This is actually... So this is like how you're coming out. This is one of the most amazing things about Africa, but like the number of different languages. So this is goodbye in, what's that, like 10 different languages? I think it's something like 72, is that right? 72 languages or something. Pretty cool. And then you're routing back towards the bus and the exit. So let's do a quick flyover. Show you all of it in context now. Don't think I've missed anything. So loads, obviously, still loads to do. Yeah, but I think that basically is this main entrance building and plaza kind of all hooked together. Oh, there's a bit of like back. There's a bit of back to this as well. So that's the restaurant actually kind of sticks out into the back. This is all eventually going to get linked onto the quarantine and loading bay and all that sort of stuff. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Very much appreciate it. Obviously, as I said, it's been a while. Apologies, it's been a while. Hopefully the next episode won't be too far away, as I've already done a bunch of stuff for it. Thank you very much for watching. Very much appreciate it. Don't forget to drop the like button and a comment below. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe. It really helps me out. And I shall catch you on the next one. Take it easy.